Basics. Let's start with some basics. What's the definition of a plain old weed?
Plant out of place.
Okay. Anything else?
The most successful plant.
Okay. It's a plant out of place. You were spot on, right? It's an unwanted plant. It can be any plant that you don't want growing where it is. So endless possibilities of what that can be, right? Lots of plants are considered weeds. Now, what is an invasive weed? Somebody give me a definition of what an invasive weed would be.
One that takes over.
Takes over,
Outcompetes the natives.
outcompetes, good. Anything else that you think of? Are you picturing plants when I say the word invasive weed? Specific plants that you dislike, maybe this one? Yep, cheatgrass. Okay, here's a kind of a long definition, but it's a good one of what an invasive weed is. A plant that's successful in colonizing disturbed but potentially productive sites. And they're able to maintain abundance and increase in density with continued disturbance. Does that kind of describe to you what an invasive plant does? Okay, it describes to a T what cheatgrass does.
Yes.
Okay. Notice I haven't yet mentioned noxious weed.
Right.
Okay, noxious weeds are both of these things, right? They're unwanted plants and they're invasive. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about those. Our noxious weeds, there's actually a law that defines them, a Montana law, and that is any exotic plant species established or introduced to the state that renders the land unfit for agriculture, forestry, livestock, wildlife, or other beneficial uses, or harms our native plant communities. That is a definition of what our noxious weeds are, okay? We have 32 noxious weeds. And noxious weeds, she's been here like this is the third year I've seen her. She's done everything. Noxious weeds have to go through a political process to be put on a list. They have to be petitioned, and you have to vote on them. Okay, so at this point we have 32. You can also remove noxious weeds from the list. Okay, but that doesn't happen often. We have 32 noxious weeds. There's about 7.6 million acres of Montana, or 8% of Montana is covered with noxious weeds. Spotted knapweed, our state flower, covers 2,700,000 of those acres. Okay? And that's what I'm going to talk a little bit about today, is some of our noxious weeds. The Department of Agriculture is who mandates that law, and they have listed our noxious weeds into groups, and they have called them priorities. And priority 1A only has one species in it, and that's yellow star thistle, okay, because they're not present in the state. I say that, but we have found them.
Yeah.
But you'll notice that each priority has its own management criteria. So our priority 1A, yellow star thistle, is basically seek and destroy. When it's found, you know, you don't have an option to put a biocontrol on it. We're gonna kill it, okay, because we don't want it to establish.
So what are the closest infestations?
So the closest one that I know of is up Highway 12 after the fires in Lolo. A yellow star thistle plant was found off of the highway. One plant.
What are the largest
Infestation in the state.
I mean, well, like in Idaho.
Oh, Idaho, yes. You'll notice that a lot of our noxious weeds, the ones that we have low densities of, are bad noxious weeds in surrounding states. We list them so that they can be prioritized when and if we do get them. Okay? So yellow star thistle is one of those. It's pretty bad in Idaho. California, it's terrible. In California, it's like spotted knapweed, our spotted knapweed. Okay? And later on, I'll show you a picture of yellow star thistle. It's not a friendly looking plant. Okay? Our priority 1B. Do you guys recognize any of those? Dyer's Woad, flowering rush. How many of you are from the Flathead area? Flowering rush is we have a bad infestation on Flathead Lake with that. It's a big pink umbrella looking flower. It's a reed. Look appearance to it. Japanese knotweed looks like bamboo. Purple loosestrife, another one that likes wetlands up in the Lake County area. Rush skeleton weed, Eurasian water milfoil, which is a submerged aquatic plant. Scotch broom, which was an ornamental plant that exploded and left its ornamental setting, and it's really bad in Washington. And curly leaf pondweed, another one that is a submerged aquatic. And the management criteria for those is again eradication, or if the infestation is too big, containment of the infestation. And then our priority 2A, you'll notice that at this point they are allowing us at the local level, local weed district level, to prioritize and choose our treatments of these plants. All your county weed districts have the opportunity to create their own weed list as well. You can petition to put plants on your county weed list beyond what is listed here. But those are our tansy ragwort, our meadow hawkweeds, our orange hawkweed, tall buttercup, perennial pepperweed, yellow flag iris, blue weed, hoary alyssum. Are any of these sounding familiar? Alyssum. Blue weed for you folks that are from the Bitterroot is one to be on the lookout for. Perennial pepperweed kind of flies under the radar. And then we're getting to our 2Bs, and these are our common noxious weeds, the ones that everyone tends to have or is battling. Our thistle, our knapweed, our toadflax, our leafy spurge, hound's tongue, okay? And those, again, we can prioritize them as weed districts, and eradication or containment, most likely just containment at that point for these. And from that, we move to a priority 3 list, and these are not actually listed noxious weeds, these are regulated species. And a lot of times this list comes together to stop the sale of these plants and to be able to put money from the Department of Agriculture towards research of these plants. So that's why cheatgrass is on there, Russian olive is on there, that's the newest one listed as a regulated species, is so that it no longer can be sold. It's not that it's going to be considered a noxious weed on your property, Russian olive, because obviously for several years it was sold as a shelter belt plant, okay? But it does have very invasive qualities, birds spread it very easily, and it affects riparian areas, okay? So it no longer, you should no longer, I should say, be able to purchase this. Like from our state nursery, no longer has this yet. Okay? Any questions about that list?
I have a question.
Yep.
Do we have tamarisk in Montana?
You know, yes. The Yellowstone River has tamarisk,
Oh,
yes.
Okay.
Any of you that have visited Utah, it's horrible.
Yeah. Fine.
It just kills all the riparian vegetation. Here in Missoula County, I find it in prominent homes around the university as ornamental plantings.
Oh, okay.
So we don't really have it out in our range or along our rivers yet. And what I do for our county is offer an incentive program for folks that I say you can remove this, and when you do, I will replace it with a different planting. So that's how I try to attack that one. But yes, it is a problem up in other places. And hydrilla is another aquatic plant that's sold in fish stores, you know, for fish tanks and stuff. So they put it there so that it no longer can be sold, so that when your little fish dies and you dump the whole aquarium out into the river, you know, and we start spreading these things. That's why that one's on there. Okay, so let's talk about what our traditional approach to weed control is. What do we do when we identify we have a weed, a problem weed?
Spray.
Spray it, what else?
Cut it.
Mechanical.
Yeah, basically, we want to kill it, right? That's what we think. We get crazy, we can't stop thinking about it, and all we can think about is killing it, right? That's traditionally what we do. And then what happens after we kill it?
Grows back.
That's right. The weed comes back, doesn't it? And we kind of get caught in a vicious cycle, okay? We identify we have a weed, we treat it, we open up a niche, and what comes back is that weed or maybe another other type of weed we don't really want growing there, so then we treat it, and we open up the site again, and it just continues to happen, right? And this is traditionally what we do. And if you reread that definition of what an invasive plant is, a plant that is successful in colonizing disturbed but potentially productive sites, we're pretty spot on with asking those things to come in when we continue with our traditional weed approach, okay? They are just fine with us disturbing the ground. They do well. They can even increase in their abundance when we disturb the ground. So when we go after our weeds, this traditional approach, we are actually encouraging plants, invasive plants, to come in. So what I like to compare this traditional weed approach to is what, for instance, if I broke my arm, and instead of going to the doctor, I just started taking Advil. And it made it feel okay. So I continued to use my arm, but then I did something too much, and it hurt it again, so I take more Advil. And I continue to treat my symptoms instead of the cause. Okay, this is kind of what our traditional approach to weed control is like. We're treating the symptoms, but not the true cause. So what I like people to do, instead of, I think killing the weed is great, but we need to think about ultimately what we actually want to begin with before we jump right in and start killing all of our weeds, okay? Because ultimately we want functioning plant communities, okay? And that's what we need to think before we start killing off all of the vegetation in areas. Because sometimes all we have are weeds, right? Okay, so my boss, has been at his job for like 45 years, and in Missoula, back in the day, herbicides are kind of controversial. And the spray program was taken away from the weed district, and they were like, here you go, find out a better way. And so he was like, okay, let's think about this. And he came up with this chart. And what it's asking you to do is to figure out what you want growing somewhere before you start using all your weed control methods. Is what am I using my land for, and what would do best there, okay? And so that's why I had you guys write on your cards, what are you using your land for? There's probably not just one use. You probably don't just have one use, right? Some of us are there for, if I owned property, and maybe I will someday, not on my county salary, but I would have it to, I love native plants. That's actually why I do my job, because I love native plants. So I would want beautiful, diverse native plant communities, and I would want wildlife to be coming. So that's what my use of land would be, okay? Maybe still continuing to raise my backyard chickens, okay? But that's what my use would be. Your use is what you want to use it for. It's, no one can tell you to use it differently, but you need to establish what you're using your land for. And maybe this section is being used for something, and maybe this section is being used for something else. It's important to establish that. Does everyone have it correct on their green piece of paper that you're going to take out this spring when you were like, what was I supposed to do instead of just kill the weed? That's why I gave you your bright green card. Okay, and then you also need to assess your current vegetation. What do you have there? Is it something that you would like to expand? Do you completely dislike every vegetation growing there, like reed canary grass? Okay, you need to assess what your current vegetation is and what condition it's in. Okay, do you have pockets of pristine, perfect plant communities that you want to expand upon? That's something you're going to want to focus on. Okay? And while thinking of all these things, we come to plant succession. Have any of you heard of that before, plant succession? Do you know what's happening during plant succession? If we started from bare ground, what's happening when we're triggering plant succession is you start with your annual plants are going to come in first. And then over time, you're going to move to perennial species. And then that's going to be pushed to maybe your shrubby, woody species, on up to our trees. Okay, that's plant succession. And basically, a definition of it is a process where you're pushing one plant community to another. Okay? And it involves the immigration and extinction of species, which is okay. It's probably good. And it's coupled with the changes in the abundance of these different species, okay? That is plant succession. And I like to have people think of plant succession as any time you're coming in with a disturbance, you're starting plant succession. That's our weed treatments, that's grazing, that's thinning, you know, building a house, any of those things. We're triggering plant succession. And what we want to do is benefit from this plant succession, okay? And we have three causes of plant succession, okay? Site availability, species availability, and species performance. And invasive species are a result of one of these three things in disrepair. That's when we start to get our invasive species. So site availability is pretty obvious. It's an open niche. Something's going to occupy that space, right? So that is one form of plant succession. Species availability is, you know, what's growing around that? What is going to occupy the space when we disturb it? What seeds are in the ground? What's nearby? Okay, that's your species availability. And then species performance is the resources that are going to be able to come in and promote that growth. Is it able to get the resources it needs? Is it able to deal with the stress that's going to be put on these plants? Okay, these are our three causes of plant succession. And invasive species, unfortunately, have larger and longer lived seeds than most of our native plants. So that's why we continue to see these plants come back, these invasive species, these invasive weeds come back, is because their seeds, unfortunately, are longer and larger lived. And so that's why those are coming back first. And if we can reduce the weed seed availability over time, that's how we start to trigger the plant succession in our favor. So again, just keep in mind that we're pushing. This is not an overnight thing. Weed treatment and desired vegetation takes a long time. Okay, and I think you probably all know that. But you just need to remember that with your weed treatments, you're wanting to push it towards your desired vegetation. Because if you don't have something that you want there, you're gonna have to bring it in because it's going to be filled with something negative. An invasive weed. In our desired vegetation, like I said, there is not one prescription that we can tell you is going to work well for your property because the vegetation has to match your land use. Okay? You have to have good grasses if you're going to graze because grazing can definitely increase our invasive weeds. I see it a lot, overgrazing. So you need to have you match your vegetation to the use of your land. Okay, so then we get to this pattern, and at this point, when we start thinking this way and using our tools, our weed treatment tools, to trigger plant succession in our favor, we can start to adapt management that will continue to progress you towards your desired vegetation. Okay, and this is a way that will help you to find the true cause of your infestation instead of just continually treating the symptoms. Okay, and remember those causes are. You can look out and you can identify, yep, I have site availability. I have the species availability I have out there. It's not what I would like. And then performance. I have overgrazed, or the erosion here is so bad that the water is not able to get to the plant it's running inside it. Okay, so that's where we can start coming in and figuring out a better way to manage. And this is a very brief introduction to ecology-based invasive plant management. And this is, when things like this pop up, when I go to trainings, I'm like, shut down, okay? But it's very useful steps if you focus on the steps up top to help you to think beyond just killing the weeds, okay? And this is available. I'll pass my book around at a website I'm going to show you, but it can seem overwhelming. It's adapted for land managers, like state and federal land managers, but very useful on a small scale as well. and it's free. You can go online and order free or print a free PDF. But this is my copy that you all can look at, and I will pull up, and I'll show you the website that this is available at. That's the general website there. And then you want it, this that I'm passing around are the guidelines to implementing the ecology-based invasive plant management. And this is one of, this is fairly new. It's probably, I don't know, 20 years old. But I continue to go to trainings on this because it's like I said, we get caught in that traditional weed management approach, and it's not working. So we need to think about ecological processes more and why we're getting invaded with these species. And I know that on my next presentation, I did not write my email address, so jot that down now, so you can tell me what you didn't learn today or what I should change, and I'll try to answer it for you. Does anyone have any questions? Do I sound like a crazy person asking you to think differently about a weed approach, or does that seem realistic?
That seems really realistic because basically in the face of losing battles,
Yep.
competition, like
Yep.
spreading a desired combination of grass seed, following whatever method of
Yep.
battle,
Yep.
and then basically just thinking about how to foster that.
Yes. Yep. It's tough to, we all think we know what we're using our land for, but then sometimes when we think about it, it's completely different from what we're actually doing. So,
A lot of the weed infestation areas are things like road edges,
Mhm.
wetlands,
yeah.
and it's harder to address that kind of
Mhm.
area.
Yeah. What's been so pleasant is no one's complained about their neighbor yet.
Where there, it's not the, my mom has an acre and a half, and then there's a road, and then there's the river.
Yeah.
And those are small plots,
Yeah.
like cabins.
Mhm.
And what do you do when you we walk that, and I'm seeing a change in like leafy spurs come in, and I know that there's like these wildflowers.
How do you protect one and address another?
Well, I don't think it would, I mean, basically I see something that's not our property being affected. The whole riverside down at the
Yeah.
bottom.
Yes. I mean, you truly have to use your resources on your own property. But I always encourage people, it's easy to point a finger at your neighbor.
Well,
But
and
it always
but
works
they're all
for-
older couples. They're
Exactly,
not
and
really-
who has money, not everyone has money to put towards weed treatment, which is not cheap.
Right.
But I do always encourage people to try to work together because it's so much more affordable and maybe you can do different things when you're working in a bigger area.
So different.
Because if you're just fighting your own battle and it's all here, it's constant, you're just trying to hold a line. And bigger scale, maybe you move out and you're like, oh, this is the start of the infestation, look, it's right here on your property, let's address it this way. It's tough to give you an answer to that, but
Because there's all these, 1 acre plots.
yeah, that's the story of my life here in Missoula. It really is.
Trying to get everybody to cooperate.
Yeah, it's tough, and everyone has a different reason for purchasing their 1 acre, and it may be because they don't want to talk to a neighbor, Yeah.
I'm wondering if Missoula County has some kind of sign a person could put in their yard saying that, like, I'm involved with this and that, where the neighbors would, like, get an interest, like, oh, I wonder what they're
Yeah,
doing
we,
now.
not necessarily signage, but we do try to, in Missoula County, we group watersheds, and then we start groups in watershed areas. So we try to get people that are all valuing the same things together.
And how do you do that? For instance,
We do-
like this lady, in the
Yeah,
10
we
the 10
try-
people on the riverside that don't know anything,
I mean, weeds can be enforced there because there is a law that we found in Missoula that does not work. And
Well, that's what I'm
people-
saying, do it in a nice way, just
Yeah.
not even saying anything
Yeah.
to anybody, saying, wow, look, those people are doing something.
Yeah, we try
to-
with letters and saying we'd love to come out and have a discussion with you. We have these resources. In Missoula, we're lucky we offer landowner grants through the county, up to $500 or $1,000 as a group. So
How do people know about that?
we try to advertise it. Yeah, it's on our website. We don't put it in the paper, but Yeah, and it's an application, and you fill it out, and we review it, and we talk with you, and then we, you know, if we like, no, we're not gonna mow your half-acre lawn, you know. But, yeah, I mean, we're lucky in Missoula that we have that, and not all of the counties have programs like that.
Smaller
Yeah.
counties with more.
Yeah, there is, the Noxious Weed Trust Fund, which people can, these are all things that you should address with your county, weed district people, which there's a list of, and phone numbers of all the, weed districts in the back of this book. But you could say, hey, I heard about Noxious Weed Trust Fund grants, and that's when you get a group of folks together and you apply for federal, state funding to help with your, it's 50-50 always, so you have to match 50-50, but you can get a significant amount of money if you can put together a good proposal.
Does it have to be in a group if you just?
Yeah, you can't do it individual.
So you've got
I mean, you could, but
you got
they
a
would,
piece of
they would
land
laugh at
surrounded by public lands.
you. Oh, they can be a part of it.
Oh, okay.
And you know what, I try to do that when I write them. I try to include the Forest Service. I have a Sentinel South Hills landowner group that includes the university open space, the city open space, Forest Service, and then a handful of landowners.
Do you need a minimum amount of acreage?
Nope, nope.
Theoretically, you could get a bunch of neighbors together inside city and,
Not so
It would be
much,
tougher,
when we're on the inside of the city, they,
or edge of the city.
yeah, which is what I'm dealing with, just one, here, but yes, the more, the merrier. You want two of these? I can get you another one.
Your neighbor is the state and they're not doing anything.
So, yes, you know what, and the problem is they are also spread thin on the resources, so we can include them. And we have included them in grants to get the money. You know, and then encourage or strongly recommend that they are treating around this person who has also applied for the same grant. So there's stuff out there, but they don't make it easy. You're gonna have to go out and ask for it. But there are those grants available. The conservation districts as well have grants sometimes for weed control. And for you, with the reed canary, you should probably contact the conservation district. But it's in Washington, isn't it?
No, actually, this is just Monroe County.
Okay,
It's a
you should
different-
do that because they have programs that can help probably you with your riparian, because you know, when you start to
Oh,
disturb.
are you talking about the canary reef?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's got such a deep root
Yeah.
structure to it that it's.
When you start disturbing your streams, you start to get into permit issues.
Well, it's funny because it's not really a stream.
Okay,
It's just, it's wet and it's rain.
right.
Wetlands fall under Army Corps of Engineers, which is a whole other ball of wax.
Stephanie, are you able to talk a little bit about the road gone down here in Missoula when, they were at things outside of spraying chemicals?
About our roadsides?
Yeah?
We do treat some roadsides. We contract all that work out. Missoula looks at it a little differently than everyone. We are always not so keen on just putting a strip of herbicide through a humongous infestation.
Yeah.
But yeah, we do treat some roadsides, some we don't. We tend to prioritize roadsides where we have organized groups that are actively treating their weeds. So it's kind of an incentive. We put money from our budget towards treating the roadsides when we know that people are actively trying to combat the same problem around it.
Yeah, up in the flathead, kind of the known chemical approaches,
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of looked at like hippy-dippy communism.
Exactly, yeah,
It's not tolerated up there.
yeah, I know.
And so, but I'm really interested in like what was tried for those.
Everything. We're gonna talk about it. We've
Okay.
tried everything here because, our spray program was taken away.
Yeah,
Mhm.
so you had to try everything.
Mm-hmm. So, and we still are, and I encourage everybody to try different things besides herbicides, because, they do work well. And sometimes we do things with herbicides and then we get herbicide resistant plants. So there's a limit to what and when we should be using them always.
Yeah, a good management program, you're going to have to
Yes, utilize many.
spread out the different types of control that you use, just
Yeah.
because you're gonna get regrowth.
You are, and
You're
at
not
some
gonna get
point,
everything with one solution.
no, and at some point you need to prioritize species. And that's what we do in Missoula is our spotted, we know we have spotted knapweed terrible. It would take so much money to try to combat spotted knapweed. We tend to focus on, when we look through those lists of plant species, the priority, they must have been one, bees, which we consider new invaders. So the species that we have very little of. That's what we focus our resources on to try to eliminate and prevent them from becoming our leafy spurges and our spotted knapweed. So that tends to be Missoula's approach to the weed management, is our new invader species. Okay,
I had a question.
yeah, I'm gonna hand some stuff out while you're asking.
Weeds taking over, I've seen desertification, where like, there used to be lots of beautiful grass
Yes.
and flowers and now there's nothing.
Yep, and that is happening. It changes ecosystems, and, you know, and if we ignore it, that is gonna happen. Our natives just are not as strong as, they're adapted for our growing conditions, you know, they know that they should go dormant, grow early in the spring when it's wet, and then they go dormant. And sometimes, the invasive species come in and they can't even begin their life cycles, because they're not getting the resources needed to grow more seed on the ground. So yes, that is happening.
I think, like, I noticed that my dad got a riding lawnmower, did it like, no.
They made it worse, didn't
It
they?
cut, I mean.
Too short.
Yeah, and then she
Uh-huh.
could,
That's one of the best ways to spread, the lower growing plants, because you hit the seed and then you go in. It works really well with clover. Right, lawnmowers, to spread a clover patch, but unfortunately it also works with lower weeds.
So fast.
All right. We're going to go, any other questions before I move on? Okay, what are you gonna do next time before you instantly kill a weed? You're gonna stop,
Taste test.
take a breath, I'd be like, all right, when I remove that, what do I need to be there? And is this the best way to do it, right?
I do have a question.
Yep.
Do you have any kind of recommendation for me on treating the yellow toad flax?
Sure, we're gonna go through what methods work for that. Is there anything good where you're?
Or well, what management would you recommend, I guess, not how you treat it, but what management would you recommend?
Well, biocontrol works well for that one. How big of an infestation
Well, I
do you
just,
have?
you know, I have some small ones, I'm afraid they're gonna.
I would chemically treat it. Because the toad flaxes produce ungodly amounts of seeds. So,
Same thing.
It's not the same.
Oh, it is.
It's a little bit different.
this handout I'm giving you has, I think it has all 32 noxious weeds and treatment options that work for them, and the herbicides that work best for them. It is geared towards Missoula County, so if it doesn't have something, I'm sorry, but I can find it for you probably. Did everyone write my email down so you can bother me later?
Probably the sheet is in these.
so they don't consider canary bluegrass a problem in Montana?
Yes, it is a problem.
Yeah.
It's not listed
Okay.
because it was a planted species,
Right.
unfortunately. So it's the same thing as like Russian olive.
It's still used.
Yeah.
In fact, in Missouri, where I was just at, they use it for erosion control.
Yeah, because it does great for that.
Once it establishes a root system, it's virtually nothing you can do.
Yeah, it's very tough.
It's really difficult to do.
I don't even begin, I just be able to tell you what to do with that one.
I've read a bit of what they were trying to do, but we covered all the parts.
Yeah.
Just keep up with the current
Yeah.
stuff.
The best way, the only really, yeah, it would be to just constantly mow it and then close it. But there again, you gotta have something to replace it.
But you wouldn't want to introduce something new too early because it's going to choke it out.
What they said is they've like covered acres with
Oh,
parks.
yeah, which
And then-
doesn't seem
and
so
then
realistic.
Then they replant.
Yeah,
So
They're dealing with it, that and even smooth brome tends to grow the same way. And those types of plants, you can come in and you can till a hole out and try to plant a shrub, for instance, or a willow or something, and it just comes in and it chokes it out, kills it.
Because it's
So,
further.
so that's one you really have got to get a handle on before you even think you should start incorporating other things. It's tough. They, somebody up in Arley, I guess it would be the tribe, is still trying to do a revegetation on, I believe it's, reed canary grass, along the Jocko. That's behind the school that you're normally, it's open to the public, you can walk around on, in there, and they are targeting.
I have a little tiny bit of flathead, but I didn't know at the time that
Yeah.
I saw.
Yeah, I know. It's a tough one. Okay, we're gonna do a quiz. Some of these are not, most of these are noxious weeds, but I didn't just take a picture of the whole plant. I have really zoomed in on specifics of the plants. So we're gonna see how good you are at identifying noxious weeds. I'll give you a few seconds to try to identify that one. I know you've all had, I have prizes for who gets the most. I know you all have this one on you. Your pets, your cattle, your horses, your children have had this on them.
It goes by lots of different names.
All right, go on to the next one. Here's the next one. This is one of my least favorite. I think this one's really hard to control.
It's spooky, you stand in the middle of a field of it and you can hear it.
Yes,
Yep.
in July. Here's the next one. Are you guys recognizing any of them? All right.
Really pretty flower.
Yo, that it is.
It looks like a snap.
Snapdragon, doesn't
Yeah.
it? When I teach kids about it, I make the flower talk to them and pinch it and make them talk to them. This is a close-up of the leaf of one that flies under the radar, really likes to grow near irrigation ditches and our rivers. How about this one? I really feel like you should all know this one.
What number are we on?
I have no idea.
We're on number 6. This is number 6. That is.
Artichoke.
My clue for you is this is the seed head of the plant. So it looks like this now. This is already gone through growing season.
Is it the same as number 2?
Nope.
Oh.
I knew I'd get you guys on number 2. How about this one? It is not marijuana.
No, but I had some kids working on my property one day and they swore that.
Oh, isn't it awesome? I know.
No, but
It's a really great attention grabber when high school kids don't want to pay attention, I say, is I always bring them in on this one.
wrong leaf structure, but it's close.
It also looks, it's in the same family as a fruit that we love to eat in the summer.
Strawberry.
Mm-hmm. We have many native plants of this one as well.
It's also related to the tomato and the potato.
How about this one? My clue to you is, what is the flower color? It's white. If you're looking through your book quickly, they are color coordinated to their flower color.
It helps on identification, yeah.
How about this one? Some of you should recognize this.
Well, yeah, I was trying to think of the scientific.
Okay?
Yeah.
How about this one? This one was cultivated for medicinal uses. So if you're suffering from mild depression, you may know what this one is. This one's a really close-up picture of the flower.
Give us a hint of what it, something about.
If I showed you that flower, even a kindergartner, it's the only flower they would be able to scream out.
Oh, no, oh, yeah.
That's why I didn't show you the whole flower.
Reduce the magnification about 47 times.
Yes.
Oopsie.
Hopefully you don't recognize this one at all. If you do, you should tell someone about it. If you have it, this is one we don't have in the state.
Yes, we do.
Yes, we do.
You need to tell.
I will tell.
Bear tooth.
You get bounty hunter, you get $100.
That is true. Some of these plants, if you were Dyer's Woad, I offer bounties on several species, but the state offers bounties on some of these if you were you identify them and they come out and it is what it is, you get $100. You can't plant it. All right, how about this one? Hopefully you don't recognize this one either. It does look like a lot of different plants to me as well.
Does it come in blue also?
Ooh, people confuse it for that one. Chicory is what you're thinking of. Yes, it looks similar. The plant structure itself. Here's an obnoxious plant, not a listed noxious weed. Does anyone recognize this
Yes.
one?
Yeah.
Nature's toilet paper?
Uh-huh.
It's also medicinal.
Yep. So many of our noxious weeds have a medicinal purpose, or were ornamental plantings to begin with.
It's curly cup gumweed.
That's a native plant, yep. It's actually endangered, or a protected species
In some areas. Yeah.
Mhm. And oftentimes I get calls on that one because I've scared everyone to tell me if they see yellow star thistle, they call me on that one.
Yeah. It's easy to tell because it's gooey.
Yeah, when you touch it, it's sticky. And the last one, this one gets caught in our socks and you want to just throw them away. They get caught in your dog's paws, in their ears. It's one that really loves to come in after we treat other weeds. Okay, now, as we go through, keep track of how many you got right. Prizes.
That was 15.
It was a regulated species. Okay, we're going to go over just those few that I put up there. Hopefully there's some of them that you guys have questions about, control methods for, but again, there is no silver bullet. So if
I
you
really
have,
like that solution right there.
I do too. If you have a technique that works, share it with everyone, okay? I don't have all the answers, and like I said, there is no right way, okay? So the first one you were looking at was a hound's tongue nutlet, a seed. Well, the seeds are inside of that nutlet. Okay, so I was showing you a close-up picture of this. Okay? This, we often have this happen and you just want to shake the dog.
Bigger lice.
Yeah, yes, it's called lots of different things, yes. Okay, Velcro came from hound's tongue. That's how they,
Really?
yes. Yep.
Now supposedly, it only makes a stalk every 2 years.
It is, it's a biennial plant.
So you can.
Yes.
just
So,
take care of
it does that the first year.
The rosette.
The rosette. And then the second year it puts up its stalk and blooms. So, hand pulling, great option, right? In the spring when it's wet, pop those out of the ground.
They're not spiny or anything either.
They are not spiny, and it's a huge carrot-like taproot. If you just get a shovel and pop it out of the ground, you know, you're one step ahead. I do recommend, if you have the energy and time, go out and bag the old skeletons, those seed sources, okay? That's your problem. You can't control where the animals are walking, okay? And that's what's happening, is they're rubbing on that, they're coming in and rubbing on your stuff, dropping these nutlets that contain 4 seeds everywhere, okay? So hand pulling, the alive ones and the old dead skeletons, great options.
How long will those seeds?
Are they viable?
Yeah.
I'm not
A season or
positive.
2 or?
Does it say in your notes that I handed you? No, I would say several years.
Several
Oh,
years.
okay.
A lot of,
Yeah, a lot of them are like 8 years.
Really?
there are some that'll stay viable in the seed
Yep.
bank for 50, 60
Yep.
years.
Really?
One of them we're coming to is 100 years.
Do they have any insects that are legal?
Well, they did. However, hound's tongue is related to a ton of native plant species. So they were very close to being able to release it, but then they found that during their stress tests on these insects, when they stress them for food, that it would jump to this relative plant. So then that takes it out of the possibility of being released. But Canada did release some. So I would guess that eventually we will be getting some of the biocontrol back here.
Are they still finding them down in Beirut?
Yes. Yes. Where did you say you live?
They get like super duper tall.
What?
Yes.
They can, yes, they can get probably like this.
Yeah.
There's something really, really tall, and it's got like the furry leaf.
You want
That's the mullein, or is it yellow flowered?
Yeah.
It's what, it's mullein, and we'll get to that one.
You want
Okay.
the tallest.
So mowing, not so effective. The only thing you're really doing is when it bolts that second year is knocking that,
Stem down.
that flower down, but it's still gonna come again and put up another.
If you don't get the whole root.
Yeah. This one's, you should get most of the roots, but I think, you get this much of it and you're gonna die. It's definitely not gonna produce seed, even if it doesn't die. Okay, biocontrol we talked about, grazing, not recommended, it's toxic to a lot of animals. They don't necessarily eat this unless they're stressed or there's some crazy weather pattern coming in and they lose their mind for a little bit. That's typically what happens when they consume things like this. They don't seek it out. And then herbicides do work, but take note that they are effective on the rosette, so that's the leaves, when it's just the leaves, or when it's bolting, putting up its flowering stem. If the plant's flowering, do not waste your time and energy and put chemical on it. You have missed your opportunity, it has completed its life cycle, it's still gonna produce seed. The herbicide does not affect the seeds. Okay, so you're better off way out and either just machete chop the top off or dig it up at that point. Okay, and here's The chemicals that will work on that, they're listed in the stapled handout, at what rate. If you can use them up to the water's edge, if you can't use them near groundwater supplies, etc. Okay? All that additional information is in this handout. Okay, the second one was Canada thistle. How many of you thought it was spotted knapweed? I know.
It's Canadian.
Yep, it's Canada thistle. Okay, thistles, most thistles are taprooted plants, not Canada thistle. Okay, Canada thistle is rhizomatous under the ground. 70% of Canada thistle is below ground. You're not even seeing it. So, hand pulling it, not so effective unless you have very few plants. Okay, mowing, basically you're just reducing the seed. Okay, you're not going to eliminate the plant by mowing it, you're just preventing it from putting more seed out which is a good thing. Don't get me wrong, that's great. If you're eliminating these puffy seeds from blowing everywhere, that's still good, right? But you're not killing the plant off. Grazing, we were talking about it before we started. Lots of animals like to eat the flower of this, but obviously the spiny pokes on the plant is preventing any other animal from wanting to graze it. Okay?
And a little like that,
Yeah.
will also eat it.
And goats are good for that. Many chemicals that will work on it. Were you talking about Forefront on this one or your hawkweed? Hawkweed? Yeah, and this one too. Yep. And notice it says spring or fall. We have found that for Canada thistle, if you can deal with it through the summer and prevent it from seeding, so just by like keeping the flower heads off, and then treat it in the fall when it's put all its energy into producing that flower, the efficacy of your herbicide treatment is probably going to be about 90%. Because the plant has used every resource it has trying to produce its flowers.
Over and over.
Yep. So fall is a great time to treat it, yep, with miles down that one.
Are you saying, I mean, my approach to this has just been, 4th of July, get the seed head off.
Yep.
And then again, end of August, early September, do it again.
Mhm.
Is that what you're saying?
Yes, that's fine, but you're never gonna kill a plant by just removing its flower. You're gonna have to go after it. This one is, unfortunately, an herbicide treatment. You can't dig this one up. Digging or tilling, just spreads it by root fragment.
Okay, I understand probably maybe the inanity of my question, but is it possible? Is it possible that this weed is doing some job that we are not smart enough to know about
Probably
yet?
so. I would
That
guess
it's
it could
possibly
be.
aerating the soil or something in the way that it would go in and make.
The only thing that would lead me to say no is that it tends to monopolize areas and then we don't have anything but Canada thistle. Not to say, I mean, there's so much research going into these things and about how a plant can naturalize to an area, I don't know.
I mean, I
Yeah,
believe that it definitely competes, but
Mhm.
I mean, I've been on my ground now for over 20 years or so.
and do you have
I've-
beneficial stuff with it?
Well, I've seen, what rural bird, like the logger that
Yeah.
worked a bunch of acres, had bird piles, the size of houses.
Yes.
Big houses.
Mhm.
And so these piles have obviously just gone down the ground and huge piles of weeds.
Mhm.
And trees grown right up out of
Yeah.
piles.
Yeah,
Trees.
I think a tree can be productive in it. I don't think other perennial and grass species will be as productive with a Canada thistle infestation.
The other thing that I've noticed about this is the popularity of bees.
Yeah, yeah.
And we have
oh,
a
yes.
bee problem on the planet, right?
Yeah, oh, yes.
But they seem to
No,
really,
they like all these
they
plants.
grew on the
Yep.
plants.
Yep,
He likes mud that way too.
yes, it is. So,
Is
yeah,
it possible that these plants
it is.
are doing something?
Yes, I
smarter
would
than
agree
we
with you,
are?
probably so, but being paid to tell you it's
Right.
not a good one to have.
Right, gotcha. I'm required to show up for this interview.
Yes, I mean, who knows?
Right.
Who knows? I, at some point, almost want to say that knapweed has almost naturalized here. Because if you look out on open landscapes, what I see now is that we don't have the monocultures of it like we used to. I look out there now and I see knapweed growing with beneficial stuff. You know, that's to say it's been managed, but it is coexisting with good things. And who's to say? Not me. Yes, that is a possibility. Third one was leafy spurge. Did you guys get that one? That ugly color that turns our L over there, the hillside turns that color every year. Okay, this, if I had to choose one that I didn't want to ever have on my property, I think this would be it. Hand pulling, not an effective way of doing it unless it's a very young plant, because these guys are able to put very extensive roots down in the ground. I do a 5th grade Leave No Weeds program in the schools, and I bring this leafy spurge replica into the school. It's a banner that you roll out, and it is a replica of an actual leafy spurge plant a road crew pulled out of the ground when they were putting in a new road, and it went 26 feet deep. Okay, so it's capable of throwing a root down like that. It's going to be very successful at gathering the resources that other plants are competing for. Okay, hand pulling it, you go to pull leafy spurge, and it breaks down. Maybe you'll get a couple inches. And if you look at it, what comes out of the ground on that root are root nodes, little pink root nodes. So that root system knows, hey, somebody just removed my food source. I need to send up a ton more plants to sustain my huge root system. So when we're pulling it at ground level, you're encouraging it to multiply, okay? And leafy spurge is one that produces that milky juice like a dandelion. That milky juice, if it gets down, when you break that root off, it drips down onto those root nodes, acts as a growth hormone. So it helps it to grow faster. So it's adapted really well to be able to succeed, okay? So hand pulling, not so good if you've got a huge, awful infestation. Yep.
What if you just, what I do is, I never see it before it makes the blossom. So I pick off the blossom and spray the rest.
That's fine.
But I.
You know what, and that's actually good because you're sort of doing what grazing would do. So when we graze this one with sheep, we're managing them to walk around and just eat the tops off, the flowers off, okay? So you're giving that plant the opportunity to put, again, all its energy into producing its next life, and then you're cutting that off so it doesn't signal to that root to put up new plants because it's already used all its energy. And then if you come in and use an herbicide, that stressed plant is going to take it in more than a healthy plant that you haven't manipulated with at all.
The only problem I have is it grows under trees.
Yes, and you, yeah,
And do I, if I use plateau, will it stay in the ground and kill my trees?
I think plateau will affect your trees, yes.
It's a brush.
Um,
Yeah.
So the rule of thumb with trees is to stay the hell away from them with your herbicides. The drip zone is what we tend to preach to people, drip zone of your tree. But I wouldn't risk it. If your tree is your value of your property and what you're trying to use, I would use a different form of weed control and just manage your infestation, cut the flowers off.
How about Roundup?
Yeah, that's Roundup is a type of chemical that binds to soil and then it becomes inactive, but if it's a bad infestation, Roundup's never gonna penetrate. It's like you're burning the top off, is what Roundup does. You're never gonna penetrate it down into the roots of a
Too quick of a half.
healthy leafy spurge. But, you know, just, you need to be clear on what chemical you're using and if it can affect your trees, because they do. And, you know, sometimes that happens where people are treating their property and end up digging their neighbors' things, so it's something to keep in mind. And on that list I handed you will tell you which ones can be used under trees.
Did you say you have a program in schools? called,
Yep. Leave no
Leave no weed
weeds.
behind?
Leave no
Leave
weeds.
no weeds.
And we have a curriculum called No Weeds, KNOW. Yep, it's fun. And my focus for that program, when I took my job, I knew that I was not gonna just preach noxious weeds. Because if you don't care in the first place, then why would you care about noxious weeds? So the Leaving No Weeds program, I heavily educate on the wonderfulness of our native plants. And I take them out and I walk them on open space and I show them wonderful native plant communities, and then I can literally show them what happens when noxious weeds are introduced into the system. So that's what I do with the fifth grade program. It's fun. Yeah. All right. Any questions on this one? Oh, biocontrol. Lots of biocontrol for this one. That's effective. Biocontrol alone will never take away your weed problem. Okay? Biocontrol is really it's going to make you work on your patients, because you introduce biocontrol, and biocontrol really is only an option when you have a horrible infestation. You need to have an abundance of that weed for biocontrol to be effective.
You gotta have something to support the bio.
Yes, because you're releasing these insects in the hope that they find each other and mate and build a huge population that will start to affect your weeds. And once that starts to happen, which is typically like 5 years before, we typically say, people pound in a post where you put these biocontrols, so you can look every year at that same spot, because what you're gonna notice is after a while, there's gonna be a whole circle that's gonna form of where you don't have these weeds anymore, and then that gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And as your weeds start to dwindle and go away, your bugs start to die out because their food source is gone. So then the weeds come back. Then your population of bugs starts to come back. And so it's a cyclical pattern. And we watch it happening really well up on the bison range on the St. John Fort. And if you're fine with that, biocontrol alone is good for you. Biocontrol is great to have and stress that, watching it. Stress your infestation out to where you can say, now's the time I should come in and use a different treatment. That's how biocontrol can be most productive for you, is if you want to totally eradicate something. If you watch, and when you see that it is starting, it's reached that threshold where you've depleted so many of your plants, and it's weak, it's to come in with another form of weed control at that point. But those are available. And you should contact your counties that are listed in your little booklet if you're interested in getting these bugs.
Some of those species don't transport well.
No, and there's only a few that are outward distribution.
You have to actually move them.
Yeah, yes, you do. But a lot are widespread. When you're in an area like this, they're out there. Maybe not in the abundance you want, but they're there. Dalmatian toad flax, another one. Ornamental planting escaped. Okay, a plant like this produces like 500,000 seeds. They're like poppy seeds, they're little. The leaf is very waxy if you rub your fingers on it, okay? It's not a great one for hand pulling unless it's a very brand new infestation, because it has a tremendous underground root system. Kind of grows like an aspen tree grove would grow. Mowing, not necessarily helpful. There are biocontrol insects that are very effective, and those are one of the earlier biocontrols that are available because they emerge from the stems in May. And they're very little weevil. Biocontrol, you guys should look for, when there are workshops, biocontrol workshops, they're very interesting to go to. First of all, we typically give you free bugs to take home. But then you also get a kind of a clue as to what the process is with these bugs, because a lot of times people are like, oh, I put bugs out, they're gone. Well, yes, they are, because they're burrowed inside of the root of the plant right now. So you kind of learn their life cycle when you go to these workshops. Okay? So right now, all the biocontrol for these guys are sleeping inside, waiting for warm weather, inside of the old stems of, and if you busted one off and blew on it, your hot breath, they would start to move. Okay?
So where do you find a biocontrol workshop?
You just have got to get in contact with your counties. We have a statewide coordinator that's based out of our office. My website is a great place that we promote these things. But the Montana Weed Control Association. They should be sending out information on those, and that's who produces this publication. There's their website. But if you're interested in biocontrol, you can always contact me and I can get you in contact with somebody that can get them for you, or I will try to get them for you. Grazing can be effective. We've been grazing on the Mount Jumbo, the L over here for like 8 to 10 years, and they were put out there to graze leafy spurge, but they decided they also like to eat the Dalmatian toadflax and have almost eliminated it from that area. I know. So that wasn't, they did not intend to eliminate it that way, but that worked out for us. And it's coupled with biocontrol up there. So biocontrol and grazing often work well together when you think it wouldn't. It does work well together for some of these plants. And of course our herbicides. With this one you will, for most of them, have to add a surfactant because you need to be able to penetrate that waxy leaf.
Drop it down.
So, yeah. That's important, otherwise your herbicide treatment will just run off. Did anyone get the common tansy on that quiz? Are we keeping track? You did?
Tansy bag for
Oh, close enough, I'll do it for you.
All right.
Yarrow, okay. Yeah, do you guys recognize this one? It loves our rivers and irrigation ditches. Sort of flies under the radar. It's one that we don't focus much energy on.
What did you say about yarrow?
He thought it was yarrow. Yeah. Like a big ornamental yarrow. Yeah, for sure. But it's got those button flowers. You can hand pull it. You really hate trying. It sucks, but you can work on it for a while and get it out of the ground. It has a pretty crazy root system.
Yeah.
And it's got a very pungent smell, the leaves. I've been taught that the people I used to use it as a fly repellent on horses. So if you wanna rub it on your livestock's back, give it a try. Mowing, same thing. You're just going to be reducing the seed source. And mowing in general is you want to keep your blade high. You're just wanting to knock the flower off. Because a lot of these plants are able to adapt and then bloom underneath the height of your mower.
But if you mow first to reduce the exposure, and then you don't have to use so much spray. So if you give it the 1-2 punch.
You do, but you also don't want to mow everything to the ground because ultimately you've got to have something beneficial growing around these things. So by mowing it high, you are encouraging your good stuff to be able to complete its life cycle and then offer more competition is another reason not to come in and scalp it off. You want the things around it to be able to complete their life cycle, your grasses or a shrub. So that's why you just need to be careful when mowing. Yeah.
So what if you have mow too low and you end up with nothing, and you want to reintroduce, so you have to stir up your soil, do you, or can you just like throw seed out there?
Well, you can.
Because if you stir up your soil.
Seed is expensive.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's like, it's a small area.
Yeah, just keep in mind, yes, you want soil seed contact is your best option
You're
there.
gonna lose broadcasting, you'll lose it all.
Predation, you're gonna get some eaten, but you're disturbing the ground, so you're gonna always have to actively be battling those plant succession species, those annual things that are gonna come back. But yes, you're gonna get a better, success with your seed if you can get it to touch the soil.
Is it possible, like, I have a picture of what it used to look like, and now, now, can you bring in the picture, because I don't know.
Oh, you mean with what species you want to put out there?
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
You can bring in
Yeah.
the picture, and then I can say, oh, that's what you have.
Yeah, yes, definitely. It's hard to get it to historic, it's hard to get our vegetation back to historic vegetation. So that's when you need to start thinking about, am I using my land the way that plant originally that was here, am I using that, is that what's gonna work
Use
best
hasn't
here?
changed. In fact, it's just that one site.
Yeah. Yep, we can do that if you bring it into our office. I love doing identification. Grazing not effective, herbicides, somewhat.
We lost our projection.
Oh, see, they told me it wasn't gonna work, or do that, and I said it did last time. Is it coming back on?
There we go.
Just in time for our favorite one,
Spotted knapweed.
spotted knapweed. Did you guys get that right? Okay. So it gets its name from that was the bracts of the flower. This is the bract of the flower, the spotted appearance on it. And we have a few knapweeds on our not to weed list, but knapweed tends to be the one that everyone has. I wouldn't believe somebody that said they didn't have it. Okay? But a knapweed is easy to control to me. You can do just about anything and control knapweed. Knapweed is easy to get rid of. Do you agree?
Just have to wear gloves, right?
Doesn't mean it's not everywhere.
Yes.
Wear gloves, you said wear gloves.
Yeah.
Yeah, it can irritate your skin. You're not gonna get cancer from it though. I'd be dead if you didn't use gloves, okay? But some of us are affected more by plants than others. Walking through this makes my legs very angry, yes. Hand pulling, wonderful, and visually it makes you happy. You know, go out and pull up, you know, you will, knapweed probably can live up to 10 years, a single plant. It doesn't normally, but it can. But if you go out and you remove that rosette and that dead growth hanging off it, and you can look back, oh, it just feels great, doesn't it? You pat yourself on the back, looks much better. Get out there and do it in the spring, right? Mowing, yep, it's effective, okay? Again, don't mow too low. This is the one that I go around in the parks around town, where they have the grass mowed really low, it's all flowering down the ground.
Yes.
I've seen biocontrol hovering down on it. Okay, it knows how to beat the mowing. So you want to go in and mow, probably the best time frame is July 15th to August 15th, when it's bolting and getting ready to flower. It's when you want to go in and take the tops off.
Take that energy on.
Yes, and this is one that repetitive years of mowing or grazing will kill it eventually. Keep in mind how many years it's been there. Got a lot of seed in the soil, right? So it's going to be a continual battle. But you're winning it, right? We're winning. We are. Biocontrol, lots of biocontrol, right? How many of you have biocontrol for spotted knapweed on your property?
Sheep.
Did someone say sheep as their biocontrol? Yeah, that is a biocontrol, but the bugs. Anyone within Roe Valley, probably Mineral, Missoula, I know you have at least 4 to 6 biocontrol on your knapweed. Okay? What?
They released them.
They release them and they are able to move around very easily. Yep.
Now, if you mowed it at the early stage of flowering, would those flowers still be able to mature viable seed?
If they are not starting to open, no. If they're just have the bud, tight bud, it's not going to produce viable seed.
But the flowers, if you wait until the flowers,
Yes,
even
you
though
wait
you,
for-
even though you whack it, it can
Yep.
still,
Yes.
the cycle will complete.
Yes.
You are distributing seed.
Yes.
Okay.
Whether you leave it standing or you knock it down,
Yeah.
probably so.
And where it says,
Get it early, get it quick.
Yeah, not too early though, because it will resprout.
when are native species dormant?
They go, well, they all vary, but you know, late August is when they all start to shut down with lack of water and the heat. They've completed their life cycles. You have late blooming.
The goats will go in there and eat up the seeds before they broadcast.
Maybe.
Maybe.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Problem is,
But we do
some
have
seeds-
late
some
blooming
seeds don't
flowers that
survive
compete
digestion.
well with spotted knapweed. It's, like I said, it's one that we can manipulate pretty well, spotted knapweed. It is everywhere and it's very frustrating. I find that people forget we have it because we go through our wonderful summer, we have all the native flowers, and then all of a sudden the only thing blooming is spotted knapweed.
Yeah.
Oh, people start calling and they're angry. But, you know, it's there, it's just a late bloomer. Grazing, same as mowing, right? The process is walking through, eating the tops off. And they're able, their guts break down the seed, so it's not viable. They're not passing it through. Elk, deer, they do. Herbicides, many that work. Knapweed's easy to kill.
Milestone.
Yep, it's easy to kill. Okay?
Isn't a lot of herbicides you can't use like near water?
Yep, and a lot of them here, yeah, I mean,
Digestive.
herbicides are great if you're being responsible and reading the label and you're following the instructions, okay? They've all are EPA registered. That doesn't mean that we're using them correctly. That doesn't mean people are calibrating their equipment. Milestone takes centimeters or milligrams, whatevers of amounts, drips in a tank. And I know people are like, and then we find it in our groundwater.
Yeah.
So they're very effective. They cost a lot of money. It's probably pretty important that we know the amount. Okay? That's all I can say about herbicides. They work great when we're using them the right way. There are, they cause damage to other things though easily. Sulfur zinc oil.
I just put sinky.
I had that.
That works fine.
I had it and I
Pretty close.
crossed it out.
Okay, this one's the only exotic non-native one. There's so many native zinc oils. The indicator for you that it's the non-native are, see those 90-degree hairs on the stem? That's the exotic invasive one. The other plants won't have those 90-degree erect hairs on the stem. Okay? Not effective with hand pulling. Mowing, of course, you're just removing the seed source, which is good, but it will just regrow. There are not biocontrol because there are so many natives that it probably will never be a candidate for a biocontrol. And herbicide can be effective when you time it the right way.
So it's a member of the nightshade family?
No, it's not a nightshade plant.
No?
Mm-mm. No.
Similar.
Can we move on to that one? White top, who has white top? Yes, I thought so. Did you guys get that one?
I had perennial buckwheat.
Good guess, good guess. Yeah, white top. Kind of looks like yarrow, but it does make a big blanket of white when it's blooming. Not real easy to hand pull because of its deep roots. It just comes back. Same with mowing. If you mow, okay, you're gonna deplete that seed source, but it's still growing vegetatively underground. No biocontrols that I know of yet. Grazing, I think I put the asterisk there because I believe at some point it has toxicity at some level, which is listed in that thing I handed out to you. So grazing can be used, but only to a point. And herbicides can work, but this one, when you treat this one and when it's blooming, is early spring. And what's happening with our weather in early spring? Rain. So this one's very hard to get at. Know where you're buying your hay from if you're buying hay. I really truly believe that a lot of us got this because we purchased hay from a field that had white top. Okay? So really know where you're buying your hay from. Lake County, I always forget to get a picture, but there's this field that says hay for sale, and then in the background it's this big white carpet of white top. And I always want to get a picture for presentations, but I forget every year when I'm driving past it. Orange hawkweed. Orange hawkweed in trees. I love growing around in the trees and making carpets. Okay?
Pretty flower.
It is a very pretty flower. It follows the sun throughout the day. Closes up at night, opens back up. It's real pretty. It grows like strawberries. It throws stolons. Okay? You can hand pull it, but you need to be able to make sure you're getting all of those stolons. Mowing, not effective. Okay? This gets the dandelion puff too. I've actually cut this. I take it around for identification purposes. Cut the flower off, and it will still go to seed wherever I cut it off. So mowing, if it's flowering, bad idea. Not effective for grazing, doesn't have a biocontrol. There are herbicides that work on it. Up in the Big Fork and the Swan area, this and the yellow hawkweeds are a problem. Forested areas, they're hard to see until they're flowering. So. St. John's wort, who got it? Yay. Okay, there is a native one, but it's a higher alpine plant. And the indicator we have St. John's wort is, are we really already out of time? We are. Is the pinprick holes through the leaf. Hold it up to light, you can see little pinprick holes through it. That's, we've got St. John's wort. This is the one I was telling, did I say the Bison Range has a biocontrol that's working on it? What is it called? Chrysalosis beetle. And it's like an iridescent shiny beetle. And the Bison Range has released this biocontrol and they just go through waves of infestations that moves around. So big infestation of St. John's wort, the bugs build up, kill it, and moves around. And they just are letting it happen. It's okay, it's working. Grazing is not recommended because it is, it poisons livestock. It also, pale-skinned livestock, they burn easily then if they consume this. Their skin burns. Herbicides can be effective on this one. Pre-flower stage, important. That's why we read the labels. Oxeye daisy. This is one that loves pastures. Animals graze around it, opening up space for it to grow vegetatively and drop its flowers. So also very cute. Daisy, right? Everyone knows what a daisy is. I call it an increaser plant because animals don't graze it, so it's got every opportunity to grow. Same with, it likes to grow with tall buttercup. Okay? This one, you can dig up. You need to make sure you get all the roots, but it tends to, you don't know you have it, unfortunately, until you get that flower. It's hard to find. But once you get that flower, you've kind of missed your opportunity. You might as well go cut a bouquet for yourself that you will eventually incinerate, right? But you can treat it, but again, when it's flowering, you've unfortunately missed your opportunity. Yellow star thistle, I hope none of you have this one. Okay, if you do, tell someone because they'll come out and treat it for you. This is one we don't have in the States. We've had plants come up here and there, and we have really diligently tried to take them away. I don't have treatments down. This is California spotted knapweed. So, you know, that one looks worse to me than our spotted knapweed. I would prefer to let California keep it as their problem. Rush skeleton weed, another one I would like you all to be on the lookout for. I think Sanders County has some rush skeleton weed. The Bitterroot for Valley County has just found an infestation. This one kind of looks like sow thistle or prickly lettuce. You know what that looks like?
Sounds here, yeah.
It's in chicory. Does everyone know what chicory is? It grows in our ditches. It's got a blue flower like that, or a purpley blue flower. But the thing with rush skeleton weed is that you can't hardly tell that there's a plant there when it's growing in with other vegetation because there's very little leaves on the stems. So it's hard to see. But it stands out when you do finally focus in on it. You're like, that looks weird, like something defoliated the whole thing. Okay? Those seeds can get up in the wind currents and go like 25 miles. So we don't want this one. Not a noxious weed. Some people want it to be a noxious weed. Common mullein, is this what you were talking about? Is this the one you're talking about? That one gets really tall.
Yeah.
Okay. It's not a noxious weed. This one's seeds are viable in the soil for 100 years. So you may have never seen a mullein in your lifetime on your property until you decided to build a shed and you moved some dirt, and then all of a sudden you've got mullein. Some people would consider this a native plant. It does really do well in disturbed areas and will take over.
Along the highways, you'll see
Yep,
it.
yep. Rocky hillsides, it grows well in, no soil conditions.
Another one that has long viability is bindweed,
Oh, yes, and that is a noxious weed.
the daisy, or
Morning glory.
morning glory.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Is this invasive?
I would say it's invasive. Yes,
Also medicinal.
yes. Yeah, this one has been petitioned several times to be put on the noxious weed list. And there's two very different sides to whether or not they think it should be listed or not. I like it, but I don't let it go to seed. I know better than to let it go to seed. I have one pop up in my garden every year.
I can tell you.
It quickly.
Yeah.
A non-cost-effective way of dealing
It's Tuesdays.
My kids were 6 and 4, they said one day, why don't you go out, because I had this big field full of mulch. Go out and pull these mulch plants, and I'll give you a nickel for every one that you bring home. Amazingly, after a few, what I did.
Yeah.
I came back, little kids that were sweaty and dirty,
Yeah, yeah.
they had a wagon.
Exactly. 4-H groups. Put your property up. Be like, oh, you're looking for some volunteer hours, kids? I've got a great idea for you. It works. I like pulling weeds personally. It's very gratifying for me. I feel good about myself when I'm done. My last one, I'm going to talk about cheatgrass. Okay? Again, that's a regulated one. We can't list cheatgrass because no one would be able to sell any sort of grain from Montana or hay or anything because it's in everything. Okay? And I will say you can treat it, you can pull it, you can graze it. It's an annual plant. It's a winter annual. So if you went outside right now and looked around in the gravelly areas and you see green grass, it's probably cheatgrass. Okay, over winters like that. So it's the first thing to green up. So you can graze it early. You can mow it. Don't mow it once it's turned purple. You're just going to spread the seeds.
Where's it named?
Well, you can pick it
I
up.
don't even know where it's native to.
Is it alpine? Like higher elevation?
Anywhere.
Do it for a
Because what I find interesting is, on Big Mountain, as soon as there are dirt patches,
Yes.
it is as if there's green grass
I
underneath
know.
there.
Yep, and that's the cheatgrass. Yep. It loves disturbance. The good thing is the seeds are very short-lived in the soil. So if you can, I've done treatments where we've dug it up, we've watered areas, gone in again. You can do that with grazing. You know, you want to try to make the the seeds germinate, come in again, all in one season. Just depends on how much energy and resources you want to put into it. I will tell you, it's hard to remove a grass from the grasses we want to keep. So timing on any of these treatments is going to be very early spring when your grasses are still dormant, or very late fall when they have just gone dormant. Okay? And I believe that's all I have. Do you have any questions?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Knotweed.
Oh, yeah.
I
We have
have one
some
plant
people
grows up
really-
every year.
Yeah.
Sticks its whole out the fence.
Yeah.
And it's gone.
Yeah.
But my neighbor, my friend has a whole wall
Yep.
with it.
Yeah.
So do they force you to get rid of these ornamental?
So where do you live?
I'm in Butte.
Yeah.
Lots of old houses.
That's what it is here in Missoula. It's hedgerows. It's a great one. It grows 15 feet in a season.
But,
you know?
I've just seen it in
Yeah.
our two gardens.
Yeah, I do not enforce it. I have a Japanese knotweed incentive program where I offer $100, no questions asked. I'll give you $100 if you effectively remove the Japanese knotweed. It's very difficult to remove. It has a tremendous root bulb system. Like, you can think it's dead for 5 years and then all of a sudden it's coming back.
Well, I've got this property with a chokecherry hedge, and there's one
Oh, yeah.
of this
Keep
thing.
cutting
that
it
just
off.
Well, it just comes out every year and
Yeah.
sticks out.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't seem to,
I personally attack it. It is bad for our riparian and river systems.
okay.
So keep it away from that. And it grows by, so it's like bamboo, it's hollow.
Yeah.
Just one little 1-inch piece of a section will grow a new one. That's what got around town, where people were like, oh, I love that.
Well,
And they would
we have
pull
a
one up
harsher
and they would put it in
Doesn't
their
have a
ground.
harsher climate, it doesn't
Yeah.
seem
No.
to spread.
Well, here we are, where we're getting warmer and it's thriving. Yes, it's there. Send me emails if you have questions, please.
Thank you.
Yep, have a great lunch.
Good job.
Thank you.